Good evening, everybody. Hello, hello. Hope you are well. And welcome to a little mini training I thought I'd drop in on boundaries, how we can find ourselves always saying yes when we really want to say no, and how you can learn to say no so you can really ditch that overwhelm. We've all been there where we've been juggling plates. Juggling plates? Yeah, we could. Spinning plates and juggling balls, I was going to say, but we could mix it up. Why not? So let me ask you a question. If you're watching this back on replay, feel free to add anything into the comments. And if you can add me a hashtag replay in, that would be fantastic. You can just catch up on anything in there as well, particularly if you want the bonus of the workbook. If you can just add workbook into the comments, I'll pick those all up tomorrow as well. So I'd love to ask you how you are. I think all too often we can come up with, I'm okay, thanks, how are you, without really thinking about it. So I'm going to ask you it twice. So really, how are you? I want you to stop and pause for a moment and really feel into what comes up for you when somebody asks you how you are right now. What are the emotions? What are the feelings? What are the thoughts? If you've got a journal or a notepad, then just, get them down on paper and just jot things down a little bit. And just to recap what we're going to be covering off in this session, we're going to cover off the 3 big mistakes that people make when it comes to the way they think about setting boundaries, the right ways to position saying no so you do maintain and keep your friendships and your relationships healthy, how to start straight away, because it's great learning new things, but how do we put it into practice? So my commitment to you is that at the end of this training, you'll have what you need to be able to claw back some of your time and make room for you in your own life, so you have the energy to show up and do the things you really want to be doing rather than the things you're finding yourself doing for everybody else right now, including your happiness and your self-care. So it's key for your future wellness, and I hope it sounds like you're in the right place. As I mentioned, there is a bonus workshop workbook even, so if you'd like a copy, just in the comments if you could drop the word workbook so I can pick those up really easily and I'll get it over to you by the end of tomorrow. I guess for those of you that don't know me, it would be remiss of me not to do a bit of an intro. So I'm Lynn of Lynn Peters Coaching, and welcome to my world. You're very welcome in. I'm a qualified coach at International Coaching Federation level, and got over 100 hours coach training and delivery under my belt, and over 20 years coaching experience, and also a 40-year banking career behind me too. So if outside of this sort of training you are wanting to reach out to me for any help around anything to do with your well-being, your mindset, your confidence, including your financial well-being as well, then by all means just drop me a message. And I got really passionate around my own well-being when I hit burnout. And I'm not going to go into that story tonight. That's definitely a story for another time. But that's really the driver behind where I am now in my own journey, because my own journey is the inspiration for all of my coaching that I deliver, as I draw on that lived experience. And it can really help you cut out years of trial and error for you all. So that's really a little bit about me and a little bit of background to what brings me to where I am today. So is this you? Can you resonate with that? Poor woman with her head on the book, where you just literally feel tired to your bones. What happens now when people ask you to do things for them? What's your immediate response? Double guessing that you immediately go, yeah, of course I can do that for you, without even missing a beat. How often do you check other commitments before you say yes and commit to somebody else asking of you your time and energy? If you're anything like I was, that wasn't very often, and often that would be maybe at the expense of family time, relationship time as well. And so it's really important that we think about what's maybe been suffering because we haven't been able to say no. So when we can't say no, we're normally really putting somebody else's needs at the bottom of that never-ending to-do list, including our own within that as well. So just again, jot down on your piece of paper in your journals, in the workbook, if you're watching this back when you've got the workbook in front of you, actually what comes up for you, how quickly do you say yes? When you think about saying no, what comes up for you as well? So let's move swiftly into the 3 biggest mistakes I see coming up for people. And when we think about mistakes with people's thinking, we're starting to get our brains involved here. So a bit of brain training or neuroplasticity, whichever words you prefer to use. So mistake number one, the thought that if I say no, they won't like me anymore. How often does that come up for you? Find yourself saying yes because you're almost worried about people dropping you or not liking you or just kind of dismissing you a little bit. If you say no, you feel like they're not going to value you. Well, what's truly happening is really it's you and your values and how much you're valuing yourself that's coming out there. So if that was to truly happen, and I don't believe for a minute with genuine friends it would, then here's the hard truth, and sorry to be the one to deliver this to you, but sorry, not sorry, really. You'd actually be better off spending less time with those types of people anyway. That type of person is only ever going to do one thing, and that's actually drain you and drain your energy bucket. So let me bring that to life for you a little bit. I'm not the best drawer in the world, so forgive me. Just want to draw out you can see that on camera there. So that's my bucket, that's my energy bucket. So we start off with our energy bucket, and then within that, just fill that in. Start off with a full energy bucket. There's all our energy inside our bucket. Every single day when we wake up, our energy bucket is replenished and it's full to the brim, and we have that energy to utilize through the next 24 hours. And it's only able to hold so much energy each day, right? So when you're using your energy, whether that's for yourself, for other people's needs, every time you use that, it's like your bucket is springing a leak. So each time there's a call on your energy, it's like some little leaks have suddenly appeared in your bucket. And then gradually those little drops of water, or in this case, energy, begin to seep out regularly through the day from your energy bucket. And that's only going to lead to one thing. If you only have so much energy, it's a finite amount. It's going to lead to one thing. You're going to be depleted of energy by the end of the day. You can see my big downward arrow there. So my lovely little drawing. I don't think I'll get any art galleries looking me up anytime soon, but just sometimes helps if we just draw things out visually. We actually retain around 80% of what we see visually compared to what we just hear and see written down as a word. So when you're using your energy to help others or yourself, it's like springing those leaks in your bucket, and your energy can begin to drain out. So to remain energized, you need to be able to block up some of those holes on a regular basis before it drains completely, so that you keep more energy for yourself throughout the day. Now, when you spend time with genuine friends who uplift you rather than drain you, or as I like to call them, your zappers rather than your sappers, it's something you can gradually work on doing, so you spend less time around those people that really do just demand your energy is used on them and not on you. Really, you can feel that drain on your energy and that sap. So it's really key that we actually think about how much energy have we got and how much are we using on ourselves, and how much of that full bucket of energy that we start off with each day we're actually using on other people. How do we feel about that? And then mistake number two, or thinking mistake number two, is that there's no point in having boundaries because nobody's going to respect them anyway. And again, I think this is like holding up a mirror to yourself. It's a bit like that reflection when you look at yourself in a mirror. You're correct. Nobody is probably respecting your boundaries right now. But do you know the reason why? It's because you're not modeling that respect yourself. So if you don't model that respect, and therefore the respect for yourself, and other people see you doing that and holding true to your boundaries that you've set for yourself, hard truth is nobody else is going to respect those boundaries, because you're sending out mixed messages at the end of the day. And how many times have you found yourself shifting around important things in your life, which have maybe impacted other relationships? I mentioned that a little bit earlier, didn't I? So you've squeezed in helping somebody else because you don't want to say no. but whose expense does that come at? It will have come at yours for sure. If you really didn't feel like saying yes and you found yourself saying yes, but you really wanted to say no, certainly an energy drain. It's going to come at your expense. What about all those other people in your life, friends, family, that maybe are getting kind of pushed further and further to the edges of your time and attention because you're shoehorning in so many things right now? So when you never say no to people that are constantly pulling on your energy, there's only going to be so much energy left, and that's not going to be enough to go around, certainly not for those nearest and dearest to you, and certainly not for you as well. So that's mistake number 2. Mistake number 3, actually thinking that the more you do for somebody equals the more they will like me. So almost like that set of scales, the more you're doing, the more that like factor is going up. The less you do, the less that you think they're going to like you. Well, I'd like to actually bust that myth for you here and now today, because ask yourself, who's the person that you're bending your boundaries for the most? When you get that person clear in your mind, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being maybe low and 10 being high, how much did they like you when you first met them? Have a little think. It's a tricky one to answer, right? Because nobody really knows, do they? One of the things we have no influence over is other people's thoughts. It's really just our interpretation and the story that we're telling ourselves about what they're thinking, rather than fact. And also remember back at point 1, if you say no, and I'll help you with how to do that in just a moment, and that person doesn't respect you enough to see things from your perspective, you really don't need them in your life right now. Well, unless you want this lovely energy bucket to be completely drained, as if it's sprung a huge hole at the bottom and that's just fallen out completely. Because they will drain your energy bucket every single day. And if you're prepared to let them use up your energy for their own needs at the expense of your well-being and your health, then you're again just heading really for future ill health along the way. And I don't say that to scare people. I say that from being that person and from not holding true to my boundaries for far too long. And our brains can certainly be retrained so that when we do things consistently, we're firing off new neurons, which are like little synapses lighting up inside our brains. And the repetition of consistently doing similar things each time will lay down eventually new neural pathways. So we can change our thinking, and that becomes our default mode. So we've done a little bit of neuroplasticity tonight. That's not easy to say either. So how do I get you there? How do I help you move from, I don't know how to say no, to, oh, actually, I've thought about it, but I really can't bring myself to do it, or I want to do it, I'm just unsure, to how can I do it? Or actually, I really feel like I'm going to try to do it, but I'm still not quite certain, to I can do it, to standing on that top step, knowing that you did it. So it's really important that working out how you'll know you've arrived on that final top step where you're able to stand there and proudly celebrate and shout out to the world that I did it. Working out how you'll celebrate getting there, every small step that you're taking towards it. What rewards are you going to line up for yourself that's going to be there for saying no and finally putting you and your needs first? Because you matter too, and it's only by our brains getting consistent rewards and that positive reinforcement that we actually begin to really lay down those new neural pathways. Our brains love nothing better than a reward system. So what would your reward be? Again, just pausing with your journals, with your workbooks, and thinking about what that's going to look like. So back to boundaries. So the right way to position saying no, so that you do get to keep your friendships and your relationships healthy. So if you see me looking down here, I've just got my notes down here. I don't want to miss anything out for you. It's only a short session and I want to cram as much in as possible. So forgive me if I do look down. So I'd love you to explore the feelings that come up for you when you think about saying no. So you've got that person in your mind from earlier on in this session. So when you picture them, you picture a situation, maybe something that's happened recently to you. And when you think about saying no, what comes up for you? I base it on my past experiences, it would have certainly been a little bit of anxiety would have kind of come up, maybe a few physical changes. I might have felt my heart beating a little bit faster, a little bit of palpitations going on. Certainly would have felt my stress levels rising. What that actually means in reality, let's go back to our brains for just a second, is our brains have a finite amount of energy in the same way as our energy bucket has a finite amount of energy. And normally our brains are kind of quite active, and a lot of the time they're spent in our prefrontal cortex, kind of the front part of our brains where our logical thought process, our decision making goes on. It's when we're kind of in our flow and we're able to get on with work and really kind of plow through it really quickly. Our concentration levels are great. But when anxiety and stress cuts in, or our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode cuts in, our amygdala, a little almond-shaped section at the back of our brains here, is set to default mode, and all of the energy will just go from the front part of your brain down to that little almond-shaped part at the back of your brain, and it's there to keep us safe. So straight away, that's why we feel our heart rate racing, why we feel kind of the blood starting to course around our body. We're getting ready for fighting mode or flight if we need to run away from the fear. Or we might freeze, we're just going to try and buy ourselves a bit of time. Or we might fawn, and that's really where boundaries come in. We kind of tend to go into that fawn mode, anything to please somebody, to make them happy. And when we do that, the reason why we can't think logically or think quickly enough about what to say or do is because we've lost that rational thought process. So when we can calm our nervous system down enough, and next time you feel a little bit of anxiety or stress, I'd love you to remember a simple breathwork technique. When we breathe into the count of 3, you can do it with me now if you wish to. So breathing in for 3, 2, 1. Pausing for 4. Just holding your breath there. And then breathing out for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Getting rid of that anxiety. And repeating that as many times as you need to in the moment. You don't have to take loads of time to do that. You don't have to count out loud. So it's something that you could be doing in your head. Just calming down our nervous system. Because what that breath work does is it sends a signal from your parasympathetic nervous system up to your brain. Actually, you're safe. You don't need to be stressing. You're calm, you're safe. And your brain energy can then come back from that amygdala back to your prefrontal cortex. And then when that happens, your rational thought process and your decision making can come back in. And it's easier to say no because we're thinking logically. We're not reacting. We actually can pause, we can reflect, and we can think for ourselves. So just try that breath work when you feel the anxiety level rising at any point. And the other thing to do, I think, is to be prepared. So if you've always got a plan B up your sleeve, so you don't get in a position where you're stuttering and you don't feel confident in what you're saying. So therefore, because you can't quite find the words, you then say yes again, and you kick yourself after because you find yourself saying yes for the 3rd or 4th time to that same person you really just wanted to say no. Have a little practice with a close friend or family member, a coach. If you've got a coach in your world, that's what we're here for, to hold safe space, to really build up your confidence, and practice on silly, insignificant little things that don't really have anything attached to them. Because I think when there's nothing to lose, that's the easiest way to practice. So if you always find yourself saying, I don't know, you always say, yes, you'll manage, you can do things around the house, for example, and somebody offers you help and you say, yep, I've got it, don't worry, I can do this. Actually say, no, actually, I'd love your help, thank you very much. It's just changing that thought process. And remember, don't overthink it, because if you do get caught in that yes trap, just think, do you know what? I'm aware of it now. I'm raising my self-awareness. It's a step forward, and learn from it and think how you could handle that same situation differently next time. And remember, practice makes perfect. We're never going to get new things right first time. So don't be afraid of failing. Just look at that failure as a way of learning, and look at it as a trial rather than failing. So just want to remind you that you are the director of your life, because it's easy to get that forgotten about, along with our busy lives that we all lead these days, our always on lives that we tend to lead. So you get to choose from now on, your choice, but you do get to choose to decide from today, if that's what you wish, to protect your energy from now on. You get to decide what your actions are going to be and the influence you have over your future life. Will it take time, effort, and hard work? I'd be lying if I said it didn't, wouldn't I? Of course it will. Anything that's worthwhile in our lives takes time, doesn't it? Especially when we're creating new habits. They don't happen instantly overnight. It takes around 21 days to build a new habit, which is why my workbook is based around 21 days. And they only build when we show up consistently for them every single day. But equally, it's about believing that it's possible. That's the key. So if you go in with the attitude it's going to be hard, then guess what? You're already telling yourself that story. So it will be. You need to understand your big reason why this is important to you to make changes right now in your life. So again, take a pause right here. Take time to jot down what needs to change for you right now. And when things change, what will mean the difference to you? What will be different in your life? How will it feel different? How will you think differently off the back of it? What will it free you up to do that's important right now? What does that need to look like? Note down any feelings, especially resistance types feelings that are coming up for you. But equally, note down what it'll mean to you when you achieve it, when you can quite confidently say no to people without batting an eyelid. It just comes as second nature when it's important for you to do so. Thinking of that sliding scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being low and 10 being high, how important do you feel learning to say no is to your future happiness? You're getting that reason why clearing front and center of your mind, because that's where we keep that importance level. Remind yourself every day by looking at your notebook or having a post-it note up somewhere that you see on a daily basis why it's important to make these changes, because you won't feel motivated every day, but you can consistently show up every day. And with that goal clearly in mind, now think about what's the smallest first step that you can take towards it. We have a lot of limiting beliefs that we hold on to, and the way we speak to ourselves has a massive impact on our lives, much more than we can realize sometimes. But you can change every aspect of your life simply by changing the language that you tell yourself, how you talk to yourself, your self-talk. So remember, you're the director of your life, not other people. You get to choose what you wish to believe in without worrying what others think or the fact they might not agree with you. If a belief is no longer serving you around how you want to live your life and how you want to show up for yourself, have my permission to set it free right here and now. Let it go. Wave it away. Say goodbye. And just see how much lighter you feel by doing so. A great exercise for doing that is to just jot it down on a piece of paper and then screw it up and throw it away or rip it into shreds, whatever you want to do. It's quite empowering to do something like that. So experiment and see what works for you. So when you created that vision of your future, what limiting beliefs might have come up for you when you were starting to think about that future? And jot them down and then think about how you can reframe them. How can you almost turn them 180 degrees from what they are now to something positive? Because if you don't believe in yourself, it's going to be hard for anybody else to. That change has to begin within you. And you have to change the way you think before you can change the way you feel. Just want to leave that thought with you for a moment. And your future happiness. So this lovely image of a woman looking forwards into her future happiness and leaving old beliefs behind. Your future happiness is dependent on you leaving those old limiting beliefs behind you. They're the things that keep you stuck. They're the things that hold you back in life. So again, using our sliding scale, how committed do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high, to making changes in your life that will benefit your future self? How much are you valuing your well-being on that same scale right now, here and now? Living in constant anxiety and stress only leads in one direction. It's a sure road to burnout. Believe me, it is not a pleasant place to be. I love this little phrase here. So a spark, the ability to dream, the courage to act, the bravery to try, the risk of hope, the ember of change. Carry it with you always. Don't let it be diminished. Don't let that spark go out. like any spark, it will need nurturing if we want to turn it into a flame and then into a fire. Think of it as that kindling, those small little pieces we're constantly feeding to build up that fire. And think of that fire as being your actions, your activities that you take off the back of this. So what else are you going to need along the way? You need a ton of self-belief. So I want to remind you that you do have the ability to believe in yourself. So I want to take you back to a time when you took a risk in the past. So ask yourself, what was the biggest risk you've ever taken? That you had nerves and worries, just like you might have now about saying no to somebody, but you took it anyway because you had deep down that self-belief. What was the worst that could happen? And no matter what that worst was, you could overcome it and you would still be okay. You've proven in the past that you can achieve your dreams. So this is no different. It's just time to push repeat and to gather your courage and make that leap. So it's time to stop dreaming, to start acting, for you to create your future happiness and wellness. It's time for you to take action. So how confident do you feel now that you can give saying no a try? You can try it out for size, try it on for size, like a new dress, jumper, coat that you're buying. If you'd like my bonus workbook to support you through the next 21 days of giving it a try, of creating your new no habit, then drop the word boundaries in the comments and I'll get it over to you tomorrow. And if you have any questions off the back of this session, again, just drop it in the comments for me and I'll pick up on questions afterwards. Just going to stop the share of my slides and stop the recording.